that the economy is absolutely going through a grinder right now, and it's just that people just don't understand it. I mean, that's the klutz of it. If the economy was booming, if we had economic resilience, as Chrystia Freeland said, then guess what? You wouldn't have all these people begging the government to extend the loans. That 1/5 of businesses could be closing in Alberta because of the CEBA loan deadline. And this isn't just a problem in Alberta. It's also going to be affecting every other province in this country because the amount of money that was borrowed as part of the CEBA loan stimulus program back in 2020 and 2021 is nearly 50 billion, and it's spread right across the country. So let's get right into it and discuss what is going on. So 1/5 of Alberta businesses most likely to close due to looming CEBA repayment deadline. And I've already actually seen this. A number of restaurants in town have already shut down ahead of this. They just haven't opened after Christmas. And January is generally the most difficult month if you're in the restaurant business anyway. And essentially what's happened is a lot of these people have just said, you know what, it's just not working, and they're closing down. And the reality is, in some ways, I'm so sympathetic towards these business owners as they faced all the authoritarian rules that were put in place, all those draconian rules during 2020 and 2021, and that wasn't their fault. And they had to deal with that, and they had to adapt. So I sympathize with them. And on the other hand, I also think, well, if the business is losing money, if it's not working, and the economy, we think on this channel, the economy is going to go down and it's going to get worse, how does it make sense lending more money to those people? Wouldn't it just be better that they shut down now, maybe even start a new business or something else? But I know that's hard to say. It's easier for me to stand here and say that, but you do have to look at the reality. And I would love to hear in the comments what you guys think on this situation. Should they extend the deadline? Should they keep the deadline the same? Should they lend more money to these businesses? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. I'd be really interested to hear what all of you say. So anyway, let's get into this. So Shauna Feth, the Chamber's president and CEO, told CTV News Edmonton on Wednesday that 41% of more than 500 members of her organization surveyed just before Christmas said they're not able to repay their CEBA loans by the deadline. Okay, let's continue on. We calculated that approximately 1 in 5 are most likely going to close because of the CEBA repayment. That is a vast amount when you think about it, and you've got to think of the unemployment consequences of that. I mean, that could literally be a black swan type event if it starts mass layoffs, and mass layoffs really could start off the CEBA loans. I mean, there is still loads and loads of small businesses in Canada that many people work for, and essentially if they're closing their doors, those people aren't getting paid, and that means the unemployment rate is going up. And what does that mean for home prices? What does that mean for the economy? What does that mean for the banking system when you've got this amount of debt swinging around? So it's absolutely crazy when you think about it, but this is what happens when you're in a highly leveraged debt-based economy. In a statement, a spokesperson for Federal Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland says businesses have 3 years to repay loans, adding the program was an essential part of the federal government's swift response to the pandemic. Across the country, 898,000 businesses applied for CEBA loans totaling more than $49 billion. Originally, businesses could receive up to $40,000 from the federal government. The limit was increased in December 2020 to $60,000. More than 500,000 businesses took advantage of the extra $20,000 loan. Just think about that for a second, because that is wild when you think about how many businesses and how many people could become unemployed as a result of that. I mean, you just have to do the math here, and it is crazy numbers, absolutely crazy numbers. And I think it will be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of months with the job reports, which we'll continue to cover on this channel. But one thing I would say is the January month is always incredibly manipulated, but maybe we're still going to see a massive drop and they're just not going to be able to manipulate it. I mean, we just saw how with the December numbers, they couldn't manipulate that. And you basically had a lot of part-time jobs that were created. A lot of people lost full-time jobs, and that isn't a good thing in your economy. You've got a lot of people working 2-3 jobs essentially just to keep a roof over their head because they can't afford their rent. They can't afford their mortgage. So it is absolutely crazy because all this risk bubbles up into the banking banking system, if you think about it, and that is the main place that it could backfire. Ottawa set the deadline to repay the loans in full to December 31st, 2022, extending it twice to December 31st, 2023, then to January 18th. And by the time you see this video, they might have extended it again. I really don't know. But it is kind of crazy. I don't know whether it's a good thing that they keep extending it. I mean, is it just kicking the can down the road? Again, I want to hear from you in the comments of this video. Both the Alberta Chamber and the Canadian Federation of Independent Business want the federal government to extend the deadline to the end of 2024. The economy is just going to continue deteriorating, in my opinion. They're going to be in an even worse state than they are right now by the end of 2024, and they'd probably just be saying, well, we need to extend it now till 2025. So, just extending it, is that going to work? I don't really think so. That's not really a solution to the problem. The problem is that the economy is absolutely going through a grinder right now, and it's just that people just don't understand it. I mean, that's the klutz of it. If the economy was booming, if we had economic resilience, as Chrystia Freeland said, then guess what? You wouldn't have all these people begging the government to extend the loans. They're begging the government to extend the loans in the stimulus program because essentially the economy is so weak, as we know on this channel. Don't believe the government's crackpot data. Believe what is out there from S&P Global, the PMIs, consumer confidence crashing. All these different things tell us that things are extremely weak right now. We got credit going up, but is that really a good thing? More people using credit cards? Is that really a good thing? I mean, we went through that with Victoria yesterday, and it's just absolutely crazy. So it is kind of insane what's going on. And then back to Alberta again. Growing sense of concern. Albertans worried over rising debt loads, report says. And this is kind of crazy when you think about the Calgary housing market and what happened in 2023, which we'll get into in a second here. Albertans are the most concerned about the pressures of household debt, with 7 in 10 residents in the province anxious about their own bills, new data shows. So just think about that for a second, because a lot of you are probably thinking the Calgary real estate market is just going to the moon right now. It's just getting started, Luke. It is just going to absolutely take off to the moon. Well, just think about what's actually going on with the people. And even if those people aren't homeowners, they're renting off somebody, and that landlord is going to depend on that income to pay their mortgage. Remember that back in 2008, a lot of the people who lost their homes, in fact, most of the people who lost their homes were investors, and they lost their homes because their renters stopped paying and they couldn't find good quality tenants. So it's baffling for some people to realize that, but being a landlord right now is a dumb idea, and there are plenty of Ontario people buying in Calgary doing exactly that. But as in all bubble cycles, you get the dumbest money at the end. So the M&P Consumer Debt Index released Monday says significantly more Albertans are worried about the amount of debt that they've accumulated in their lives, and are the most likely in Canada to have only made the minimum payment on their credit cards. What is this telling you about the financial health of the Alberta household right now? It is telling you that the financial health is absolutely terrible, despite what you might hear. Sure, you might have people coming from out of province, buying houses here, pushing the prices up, but eventually when they stop coming because of economic recession, and then you've got all the people that are going to default in Alberta because they're in a terrible situation, what is going to happen to the market, guys? So yeah, you can have in bubbles, like I said, just complete manias going on at times where you just wouldn't expect it. You can have higher highs in a bull trap. I just think the way Alberta has been branded over the past couple of years, and how the premier, both premiers in fact, invited people to come into Alberta. Most people here that I've spoken to about it can't stand it. The only people who like it are, guess what, realtors, mortgage brokers, and they're the ones out there promoting it, obviously, as well. So it's just, oh man, it is absolutely mad. So according to the data, which was compiled through an online survey of 2,000 Canadians between November 28 and December 4th, 2023, 1 in 5 Albertans who responded said they needed to take money from savings, home equity, retirement funds, or other areas for daily expenses. Credit spending has been a lifeline for many individuals grappling with rising costs, and we see from the data that the burden of repaying that that debt is intensifying the growing financial pressure on many households, especially amid higher interest rates, said Donna Carson, a licensed insolvency trustee with Alberta-based MMP. So yeah, you're having major problems that are happening right now. And this is not what you would expect. So I saw this, the 3 most and least expensive major cities in Canada by cost of basic needs heading into 2024. It's going to surprise you guys. So according to market-based measure, data released by Statistics Canada in late November, the cost of basic needs among all assessed major cities across Canada is highest in Calgary, Alberta, and lowest in Montreal, Quebec. As defined by Statistics Canada, MBM data is based off the cost of a specific basket of goods and services representing a modest basic standard of living for a reference family. So you basically see here the most expensive places. Calgary, you would not think it would top the list, but for all of you who've lived in other provinces and live in Calgary, me as well, you will know that Calgary services are significantly more expensive than other provinces. It's more money to eat out, it's more money for pretty much any service. And if you actually look at prices and even look at the flyers, even though there's no PST here in Alberta, they adjust the prices for that. So it always makes me laugh when people say, oh, one benefit of moving to Alberta, no PST. Well, they adjust all the prices to that. Pretty much all the prices are based off the Ontario prices, as that is the biggest economy in Canada, whether people like it or not. So basically, I would actually agree with this. This is actually true. It's kind of a myth about Calgary, but the cost of basic needs being the highest in this city, I would agree with that. Vancouver, Toronto, I think everybody would agree with that as well, but it's kind of a wild card there that you wouldn't expect for most people, especially all these people who've been brainwashed by the government of all people into moving to this province. And again, it's just part of a longer term cycle of boom bust. Maybe it's not going to happen, maybe it is, but it's incredibly interesting when you look at that long term cycle. And I'll link a video at the end actually. And then the cost of basic needs are lowest in Montreal, Brandon, Manitoba, St. John, New Brunswick. So there you go. Those are the places where the cost of living is the cheapest right now. And I just want to go over something with Calgary real estate prices real quick, because we haven't talked about Calgary in a long time. I've mentioned it many number of times on this channel. So basically what I want to show you guys is the migration trends. They actually fired up back in 2021 for Calgary. So more people started moving to Calgary in 2021. It just intensified and intensified and intensified. So if people are telling you prices are rising because of migration, they don't have a clue what they're talking about. This is another real estate bubble. It's a lot smaller than other real estate bubbles, but it's still a real estate bubble. When you look at median income, the amount these prices are, it's like 7 or 8 times median income to buy a house, which is just insane. The long-term historic average is between 3 and 4 times median income. So anyway, when you look at the prices here, what I want to show you is 2022, because 2022, you again had the Alberta market that changed directions on a dime based off that 25 basis point hike and based off sentiment. Because if you actually go to the Google Trends data, you can see here, guys, that throughout May, June, July, this was when search trends were spiking for recession. And then October was around the time when they last spiked, and then it's gone down ever since. People just either don't care that we're in a recession right now, and I think that is definitely part of it, or they think that there's going to be a soft landing and everything is going to be fine. The Bank of Canada is going to come in, rescue everything by cutting rates, and everything will just be fine. We'll all live happily ever after, right? I'm highlighting this because this correlates exactly with what you see with the prices right here. When the sentiment shifted, the prices came down. People are going to say it's migration. People are going to say it's interest rates. But I wanted to give you this example because even Calgary, if you listen to the average person, they would have you believe that prices have just gone straight up since 2020. But that is far from the truth, especially if you look at what happened in 2022. And I also want to highlight, in 2022, Calgary had extremely low inventory for the housing market. It's one of the only markets that I still track for some reason. I still produce the figures for it. So if you want them, just get in contact with me. I can send them to you. They'll be more use to you than it will be to me. I just like to track the local market that I'm in. But the correlation is definitely there. And that's what I mean when it's all about psychology, when it comes to bubbles, and it's not about what everybody thinks, which is interest rates or this fundamental that more people are moving, and that's what's having an effect on everything. Because like I said, the uptick started in 2021. It didn't start in 2022. So it's kind of crazy, guys, but I thought that would be interesting to share with you guys. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, you might like this video here. You might like this video here about Calgary specifically in the boom bust cycles. And if you're looking for a VPN, then go to expressvpn.com/market mania. Use a VPN to get around Trudeau's censorship crap. And I will see you in the next video. Take care.